Get started. Welcome, Christy.
Hi, thanks, Leslie.
Sorry about that. All right, that should
Sure.
have done it. Welcome, Christy. Thank you again for joining us and for being part of our confirmed conference. We're very excited about your topic. You'll be covering a low user impact, high value knowledge management. Now, about a little bit about Christy before we get started. Christy is a trusted advisor, strategic consultant, and client advocate focused on the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, specializing in governance. She develops solutions driven by efficiency, collaboration, and sustainability. Christy has over 20 years as an IT professional, the latter half of them in consulting advisory roles, leading diverse global project teams. Prior to IT immersion, Christie was active in a variety of project management roles around the world in the oil and gas industry. She's the founder of Paint and Run Consulting Services. Once again, thank you, Christy, and thank you for being here.
Thanks very much, Leslie, and very pleased to be here. This is my third opportunity to present at the Confirm conference, and I think it's just a really great organization that is so robust in user and membership information around information governance and records management. Um, I would like to thank everybody for joining this session. I know it's often difficult to come in right after a keynote speech. So I'll try to do my best to keep you entertained and informed. Today topics. And my session today is sponsored by Ovidus. Thanks very much, Ovidus, and we'll have a shout out to them at the end as well. Okay, so driving right in, knowledge management with Viva Topics. Just off the bat, I'm not trying to sell a product. Viva Topics is one of the Microsoft solutions that has received a lot of airtime recently because it has a lot of employee engagement and a lot of AI and machine learning on the back end. We're going to talk about how we can use that for knowledge management solutions for companies that might not already have a knowledge management solution in place. So it uses your content as well as your user behavior to help recommend information that would be candidates for knowledge management or knowledge sharing. Today, what we'll talk through are some of the challenges and opportunities around knowledge management or the lack thereof. We'll touch on a couple of successful use cases, and then we'll do a little bit of a tour of what Viva Topics looks like, both from an initial view as well as a in the line of work view. We'll also wrap up with a few common scenarios, and some of these might resonate with you. I would like to say there is a chat window open, so if you have any questions as we move along, don't hesitate to throw those out in the chat. I'm able to keep an eye on those as we move. So let's go into knowledge management. The first thing to understand about knowledge management is that it's kind of a hierarchy. Knowledge, I guess a pyramid would be also a good visual indicator. Knowledge is the top of that hierarchy. So, what it is built upon is data. Every company that operates, that has people, creates data. Whether you use databases or whether you're aware of data warehouses or other things, that's just kind of the common common deliverable or the common aspect that every business creates in its day-to-day operations. The culmination of that data into information is essentially taking that data and structuring it or putting it into some sort of a context that makes it human understandable. So if you were to look at a large data set with lots of values and tables and data fields, it may not make a lot of sense off of the top. But if you were to look at a table or a report or a summary of that data that is put into context, then it becomes more human ingestible and is able to drive decision making and other efforts within an organization. That information within your organization also gets created. So think about things like all of the documents that are created, the chats, the projects, the emails. All of that is information, and in on its own, that's all that it really does is provide information about a specific thing. What makes it knowledge is adding that human layer on top of the information. So having the human layer that can understand, interpret, that has experience with that information, that has insight or expertise, that's where the knowledge happens. And this knowledge might also be something that you can visualize in the form of documents or deliverables or other things, but that doesn't happen on its own. That type of content is derived from data that becomes information. With the layers of subject matter experts or the people who do the various roles within your organization, then it becomes knowledge. One of the challenges that people who are facing a knowledge management project often have is trying to determine, well, what exactly is the knowledge out of all of our content? So some of the challenges, feel free to pop into the chat if any of these sound familiar. So people lose almost 2 months per year of productivity time searching for or recreating information. That statistic is a little bit dated, but only from 2021, based on data probably from 2020 and 2019. Microsoft has a research division that is comprised of some very smart people, and they produce a summary of the way of work each year. So this is coming from their summary that was published in 2021, excuse me, right in the midst of the pandemic. Excuse me. Um, And what they found based on interviewing people and also querying data. So it's not just what people think, because it's hard for a person to say, yeah, I wasted 4 weeks on that. Um, there are organizations who have Microsoft tenants who have the opportunity to opt in for things like metrics collection. And so some of this is machine metrics scraped, some of this is survey respondent driven, but approximately 7 weeks a year. That's probably only gotten worse since this study has come out, because what have we seen in the news lately? Well, not hundreds, tens of thousands of layoffs. It seems like every month for the last several months. Massive personnel changes result in lost knowledge. Oftentimes during layoffs, these people don't necessarily know that they are going to be laid off, so they're not focusing on documenting their processes or um, documenting necessarily the latest updates on whatever projects that they're working on. Um, Also, with large personnel turnovers, there's a gap period between what those roles are going to be. I think we've heard from Microsoft that some of the restructuring that they're doing is reorganizing some departments and functions within the business. That's massive change, and anytime there's an internal massive change, there's a high risk of knowledge loss. Um, so some of the challenges besides the personnel change is information overload. If you're back to back in meetings all day, I think the part of this study indicated that if people have more than 4 meetings in a day that are longer than an hour each, their productivity just nosedives, because there's so much mental bandwidth that's consumed in participating in meetings. So information overload when you're trying to prep or in between meetings or doing the actual.
Christy, I think we lost your audio. No, we can't hear you. Still nothing. No. There we go. You're back.
Okay, come on, speakerphone. Okay,
We can hear you, Christy.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah, sorry about that. Right.
Thank you. So there are a lot of things that can result in gaps in knowledge, from people movement to even promotions. You know, if somebody's leaving one job within a company to move to another company, or sorry, another department within the same company, sure, there's a bit of overlap there, ideally, but sometimes there's not. So some of these challenges, I guess with all challenges, there is a silver lining, and that is called an opportunity. We'll look at some of those opportunities. So rather than dealing with the loss of knowledge and expertise, what Viva Topics it was built to do was to use the content that you already have as a company and the people expertise that exist within your company day to day to um, basically capture the knowledge and the subject matter expertise within your company as a regular flow of work exercise. So part of that is driven by AI, and the information and the data that it is built upon already exists in throughout your company's documentation and information. That information in Viva Topics is scanned. You are provided with a summary list of recommended topics based on the content in your company and the behaviors of your users. Typically, there would be an administrator or a curator who would go through and curate those topics. And then that makes knowledge and information, bundles of information, small bites, easy to discover and use. And there we go. So some of the successful use cases, I think we've probably talked or referenced this a few times about onboarding. Um, another great benefit, I think, is democratizing access. So your people in engineering are very aware of what they do for your organization or the products that you're creating, but your people in accounting might not be so much. So this helps people have glimpses of what's happening elsewhere in the company without necessarily requiring them to be pulled away from the work that they're assigned to. If they're curious, that's great. It's not necessarily meant to be, it's specifically not meant to be a distraction, but it does provide insights into different buckets of information and knowledge within your company. Onboarding we've talked about for in general, but I'd like to point out another onboarding scenario, and that is somebody gets hired at a large company, they go through HR and a corporate onboarding, but then once they are within your department or your line of business, there is still some onboarding that happens within that organization or that group, and that is how your processes work, who to contact for what things. That more departmental and informal onboarding is something that Viva Topics can help continue after you bring a new person into the company. The other thing, expertise identification. So if you asked people within your organization what they might be experts on, they probably would raise their hands and indicate, a few things that they feel they have expertise on. But the socialization or the democratization of this allows other people within your company to say, yes, I think Jane has expertise about X because she helped me with this previously. So it gives a little bit more of an objective approach to identifying expertise as opposed to self-identifying for your people. For sales, it's very helpful if you work with an organization that has a sales channel or a sales pipeline that involves recreating proposals. Having to look for a proposal that was similar to a different or that references a similar business case that you might have done in the past, that can take some time. It often involves, asking people or maybe doing a chat, who's done a project like this before, who can help me, spin up this proposal. It helps streamline a lot of that hunting and finding of information. And then finally, my favorite is making the tacit knowledge explicit. So basically, the tacit knowledge that exists within your subject matter experts' brains and making it explicit, a little bit more publicly accessible. Okay. So I promised an example, and this I will take a little bit more time on since we're getting into the Viva topic specifically. Now, if you have any questions about what you see, again, feel free to plug them into the chat. I'll be glad to answer them. This is not going to be a live demo, just for the purposes of a smooth production, my headphones notwithstanding. Switching from a presentation into a live demo created a few little hiccups in our practice run. So we're just going to be talking from screenshots, but I'll take you through everything in those screenshots. Probably the first question that you might have about Viva topics is how they are created. I think what a topic is fairly self-explanatory. How they're created is part of the magic behind Viva topics. So we've talked previously about how your organization has data, and in cases that data is rendered into information because of how it is either structured or utilized or placed into context. The knowledge piece that requires the human layer, that's the intersection that we're seeing right now. So the Microsoft Graph is something that people who are using Microsoft Cloud or Microsoft 365, that's a built-in function. It operates behind the scenes, whether you know it's there or not. It is what helps index things behind the scenes, what helps drive your search functions, for example. It also tracks behavior and sharing activities. So when you opt in to trying Viva Topics, there are a few setup steps in the very beginning. And one of those is to indicate where you want the AI to scan your cloud data to search for probable topics. And the recommended setting is scan all your SharePoint or all your teams. But in some cases, that's not feasible. So, for example, if you are an organization, the screenshots I'm using here are from a fictional organization named Contoso. This is a common Microsoft demo scenario. But in this fictional Contoso organization, they create products. So there might be in some cases where you have a product development team that's top secret. It's not meant to be known by the rest of the company. Maybe it's a proof of concept and your company hasn't decided whether or not they're going to proceed with building this particular device. So for the things that absolutely have to be gate kept or secured, like HR information, you can point the Viva Topics scanner to, or you can indicate on the Viva Topics setup page which sites you want it not to scan for information. Now, the scan happens, it is security agnostic. It's just going to scan the content. So you have to tell it which sites to ignore if that's the case. and you let it run. After a week or 2 weeks, depending on how much content, how many terabytes of information that you might have, you will be notified that a topics page is available for you to review. There are some administrative steps that happen in the interim, but what I apologize, you're going to hear my dogs. What a topic recommendation page looks like is the page that we're seeing here. And this is all AI generated. So along the left, we're seeing the names of potential topics. We're seeing in this status that some of them are confirmed, some of them are published. I'm sorry, I have two, an old one and a young one, and they want to play under my feet. You'll also see a couple of automatic scores here. Stop. You'll also see a few automatic scores here, the topic score and the organic topic score. So the regular topic score is just based on the content that you have access to. So in my persona, in this demo environment, I am assigned administrative rights to Viva Topics. So I would have probably higher score levels here than a regular person popping into the topics page. And this is a page that you wouldn't necessarily direct most of your users to. This is just, think of it as the findings from your Viva Topics scan. The organic score is a topic's completeness based on all of the available resources. So what we'll see here is that some of them are higher than others, but they're all 50 to 60%. And that's because they've been identified as a topic and then confirmed as a topic. So that tells Viva that, at least we've got 50% of this fairly correct. It is a topic. What brings that percentage up, that topic score up, is then the interaction with that topic. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a moment. The other thing that you can see over on the far right is the origin. So how were these topics identified? The ones that indicate they were just identified from Viva Topics mean that they are basically identified by your AI. The ones that indicate topics and a user indicate that those topics have been surfaced by AI and then curated by a user. And another indicator of that is the fact that they are indicating here as published status. So what a curator or an administrator would do on this page is take a look at a particular topic, and if it is viable as a topic, a bundle of knowledge or a bundle of information within your company, then they can opt to publish that. And publishing a topic, publishing a curated topic results in the creation of a topic page. You might be thinking, where does this page live? What about my SharePoint, information architecture structure? How does it fit into the scope of things? When you launch Viva Topics, one of the things that is created is a standalone Viva SharePoint site. So each of these topic pages are SharePoint pages that are within that Viva Topics site. And that page has a number of components. So we're going to go through these screenshots top down. The first part of the page is and the curator would be the one to help shape this. So the top portion of the page is what the curator is prompted to provide in terms of alternate names. Another field of information that a curator or an administrator would add is a description, a blurb about what that topic is. These gray tiled words are content types. So if your organization is utilizing content types within SharePoint, that's one of the pieces of information that the AI can utilize in associating topics. So information governance and compliance, my proposal is that for companies that wish to utilize topics, You can use them in many different states of work, but wouldn't it be great if you had a topic page all around your information governance or your compliance or your information management policies? You probably already have a web page along those lines, but creating a topic page will serve you in the flow of work later. So having that general information listed here is very good. And then identifying or utilizing content types and associating them with different topics also helps surface that information up for users as they're working. You have the opportunity to add content or web parts to your topic page. So here, Contoso has added a description. They try to automate, information governance and compliance as much as possible, but they still want people to be aware of and daily or regularly exposed to the concepts around governance and compliance. I think oftentimes that's something that's kind of that's managed in a little bubble within a company, and that's not necessarily discussed by all people. But these days, everybody has some responsibility around the management and governance of the information that they help create. Access to topic pages, very good question. These are publicly available or publicly visible, but remember how I mentioned security before? So when the AI is scanning your content to recommend topics, it ignores security. The person who's the admin or the curator who goes through and creates the topic pages will just create those topic pages. But because of the content, whether it's the content types or let's move to the next slide here, or the people in a particular group, or if it's a topic that is mainly within one organization, all of these results will be security trimmed. I'm going to skip ahead one slide and come back to this one. So, for example, in a topic page, the third section, if you're going from the top down, the third section allows the administrator or a topic SME, to pin what they think are the most important documents related to that topic. So in the case of information governance and compliance, that probably is going to be publicly available information to your whole company, at least on a read version, maybe your policies and so on. And what a subject matter expertise or your topics admin can do is pin, if somebody were wanting to learn about this particular topic right now, what's the fastest way that they can hit the ground running? Well, probably by reading the executive summary, getting to know who the team is, and understanding some of these other policies around governance. Actually, these are not necessarily governance related, but they're policy related. Now, if this were a different topic or an engineering topic, for example, and maybe there was some information that was not necessarily related to a confidential project, but was security trimmed, then these results would also be security trimmed. So if you are a topics administrator, you're going to have a little bit elevated privileges because you also need SharePoint administration rights to configure topics. But if you're Jane Doe in the company, then you won't see anything in these pinned files that you don't already have access to. So it's not exposing content to people who might not otherwise see it. If I don't have access to these documents, I'm going to hop backwards a little bit. It still behooves me to know what our information governance and compliance is about. What is that topic? Who are the experts? Who might I need to talk to in this organization to learn more? What learning path might I need to take or training? So the information bit can be open to anybody as long as the information is open to anybody, but the documents are a little bit more security trimmed. Okay, so in the topic page, going from the top down, this would be the introduction of the topic and some keywords. The next thing that you would see are the confirmed people. This is important to note because there could also be unconfirmed people. On a topic page, you'll see people who are associated with that topic. In this case, all of the management directors have some sort of a role or responsibility around information management and governance. And as such, they've been involved in some of the policy development. So they're showing here as confirmed people. Excuse me. What makes them confirmed, see that green check mark, is the fact that once a topic has been suggested by the AI, it also suggests related people. Now, the topic administrator can confirm yes, yes, yes on these different people. It's a yes, no checkbox. But these people also have that opportunity. So if I'm Miriam, for example, and I see a notification that I have been confirmed or tagged as a person of knowledge related to information governance, I then have the opportunity to say, no, not really. You can override that as you, the person. This is where sometimes the topics curator or topic curators and multiple is great for an enterprise situation, is a good idea to maybe talk with different departments and get their field, walk them through what comes up on a topic recommendation so that they have a feel for what they have the power to approve or reject or confirm or deny. It's all also part of a learning model. So, as users see a topic in their flow of work, they would have the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I helped draft this proposal. I'm going to add myself as a related person. So people can do that. This on a topic page, however, just gives you a snapshot of who are the main people to reach out to if you want to learn more about this particular topic. And we talked about the document example. So these are pinned files and pages, but they're not all of the content related to information governance. So either the SMEs or the topic administrator is who would actually click the button to pin these files or documents to the particular topic page. The next section down, if you're going from top to bottom on the topics page, are pinned sites. So when the topics page is in draft mode, it will have a listing of all of the SharePoint sites who have had some interaction or other based on that content, based on the documents that we saw, based on the people who are associated with information governance. So these are SharePoint sites that have even the content types or documents using the content types that are referenced by this particular topic. So it recommends a number of SharePoint sites, and then your topics curator or your subject matter expertise would confirm, yes, these are the websites that use this the most, or that somebody who's looking for knowledge could go to for more information. Okay. The next one is driven by the Microsoft Graph, and this is the one that I so wish I could show you a live version of. The bottom portion of a topic page, it's all automatic, based on the pinned sites that we just saw, the pinned documents that were above that, and the associated people. This is what the Microsoft Graph is surfacing up as related information in the company. Now, if you have people who might be neurodivergent or very, very visually oriented as opposed to, lots of words on a page oriented, this particular graphic makes a big impact. Here, if I were from the outside looking into this fictional company, I could see that information governance and compliance, it's in the center here because that's the topic card that we're on at the moment. I can see that that is the center of this virtual network of information. I can also see, thankfully to the legend, that there's a lot of interconnectedness here. So the dotted lines are suggested relationships. That's suggested by the AI. The solid lines are one's relationships that have been confirmed. Um, so, for example, I think marketing was one of the sites that we might have a relationship to. So the SharePoint site marketing might have a small team called marketing enablement. There might also be two other marketing organizations within that. So projects and project teams that I've confirmed as being related um, have a solid line. Why would they be related to information governance? Oftentimes, a project team has a discrete beginning and an end. It's a finite thing. Sometimes they utilize a lot of contractors and consultants. So each project team that spins up has an area of their site or their hub site or their spoke site that indicates how they need to manage the documentation that they are creating as part of that project. And so, in theory, with a company where information governance and compliance is communicated as a role and a responsibility for each person in the company to be aware of and be empowered to protect your content, then theoretically each organization within the company would also have some sort of a connection to your information governance topic. So, in a truly wonderful theoretical idea, you would see information governance, because that's a topic page that we're on. You would see that as the center of this graph, and it be representative of a huge network. If all of the functions within the company, all of the different team sites were associated or related to information governance. Now, some of these connections are automated. You can tell that by all the dotted lines. So this is where the topics administrator can confirm those relationships. And with each thing that's confirmed for a topic, that increases the topic score. It also gives the AI or the Microsoft Graph on the back end, it gives that graph a little bit more information. So the graph starts off with scanning your reservoir of information and recommending topics. Each confirmation that happens on top of that for people or related sites or the documents, that adds a little bit more awareness to the AI model, the learning model, a machine learning model. That gives that model a little bit more regenerative information. So as that model continues to exist within your company, each new nugget of confirmation enhances the model to be able to find topics and other topics of relevancy. So what this really is showing us are other topics. So Contoso M12, that's a topic, but it also might be a product. It also might be a product team. It also might be a SharePoint site. But this gives somebody the ability to kind of visualize how interrelated that particular piece of information is. And again, this should be, I'll have to double check that, but this should be security trimmed as well based on the user who's viewing it. Right. So when we're looking at this live, this graph actually moves. When you load the page up, it'll start with your particular topic that this page is about, right at the center, and then it will pop up and populate the related topics. And then the stronger the topics are, or the more interconnected they are, the closer they are to your topic. So we can see Mark 8 has all kinds of prospective connectors. And because of that, it's fairly close to our information governance. Same with Mark 12. But other things that might be that haven't been confirmed yet, that are topics that could possibly have some relation, are a little bit more tangent or a little bit more tenuous. So that's where, over the flow of work, an administrator, subject matter experts, or even your everyday users can contribute to your knowledge management resource. The thing about knowledge management that hangs people up often when they're considering, for example, a proof of concept or a business plan to roll out knowledge management, is that oftentimes you're looking for a solution to put into place, and then you have to figure out how to connect the information to your solution, make it sustainable, minimize the administrative burden of a person or people, always keeping that up to date, always updating things. That's where the AI or the Microsoft Graph backend comes into such strength for Viva Topics as a knowledge management center, because it's scanning all the time, it's learning all of the time. There is a responsibility on one or a few people to administer and curate your Viva Topics and your topic center. Um, you could also expand that administration to perhaps a person in each line of business to be responsible for their own line of business topic. Maybe they want to have a page, a topics page for HR, for example, and then they can list a box of or selection of topics within that HR onboarding page. So it can also tie into, if you have an internal learning management system, can connect to that as well. But what that means is the administrative burden is significantly reduced because of the AI on the back end. It does take curation, but that can happen with all of your users. Just like information governance and compliance would be a responsibility that each of your users would have within their typical line of work, so would knowledge management. So as they're encountering a topic or a topic card, users can contribute knowledge or expertise to those cards as they encounter them. All right. So we've talked about a topics page. We saw the topics center and how topics are surfaced up. And then once a topic is confirmed, then it becomes a draft of a topic page. And then once that page is edited, meaning that the people are pinned, the documents are pinned, keywords are provided, then that topic becomes a topics page. What we also have are hashtags. So how do people know something is a topic? How do people know that there's a topic that exists out there or a summary of this information? That is where the hashtags happen. So throughout SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive is coming online soon, and email. If you use a hashtag within your text, you type a hashtag, you will see a pop-up box that is waiting for the first letter that you're going to type. What that's going to do is, let's say if I type hashtag I, that's going to show me all of the topics that start with the letter I. And I can click from them or type in the words information governance. But once I select that topic after my hashtag, then this is going to appear to all of your users like a hyperlink or a hyperlink. I know that Teams has discussed previously, or people in Teams often will use a hashtag in order to find a comment, or in order to enhance searching and finding for something later. This is where the hashtag use really becomes valuable, is with Viva Topics. So in this case, what we're seeing is a screenshot of the homepage for Contoso, our fictional company. It happens to be on their intranet site. And this is a news announcement from their leadership team saying, hey, we've talked about doing topics. We're not going to burden you with a lot of information. Just be on the lookout. And here they're announcing what to look out for initially, and that's the hashtags. What happens when somebody hovers over a hashtag is then the hashtag or the hyperlink will turn green, or whatever the color theme is for your cloud environment or your tenant. And it will surface up what's now called a topic card. This is basically the bite-sized piece of information for your topic, or the nugget of information. It's that topic at a glance. So if I hover over any particular topic, I'm going to see perhaps what the keywords or groups are associated with it. I see an indicator here that's telling me it's a Viva topic. Here is why a description is best practice when the administrator or the curator is building and publishing that topic card, because this is where and how that description information is going to show up to users. So in the vein of knowledge management and information sharing, these descriptions are best if they're framed in a way that assumes nothing, right? You can't assume that a new employee perhaps has an understanding of what this topic is or what it might comprise of. So this is a way that you can indicate from a zero source assumption that a user can quickly absorb what this information is about or what this topic is about. Now, we know from the topic page that there were 8 people that we pinned to the topic as associated people or subject matter experts. Because this is a small card, it's just going to show us the top 2 people. The same with the documents. Here it's showing us there are 10 plus resources that are associated with this topic. And this is why it's important from a curation standpoint to pin the documents in the order of importance or in the order of learning. So it's all about how the user is going to see a topic card. So if this is their first exposure to this topic about information governance and compliance, then they'll see a description, the SME. So maybe I know Megan and I can reach out to her to ask her more information. And the document to read to hit the ground running, or to go from 0 to 60 on that particular topic. That's why pinning the document that is clean, easy to understand, but still informative. That's why pinning the order of those documents is very important for how it appears and how it will benefit the users. The other thing that's important to note is that this view details link. So each of these are links, actually. If you click on Megan, you'll be brought into a Megan, I think it's a chat window or a connection window. Same with the document. If you click on that, it will open up the PowerPoint. In this case, if you view details, that will launch the full-size topic card. So the people who are interested in this topic beyond just this little blurb can dive a little bit deeper and gain more understanding of that topic. All right. So before we go into some real world scenarios where topics have been proven a success, are there any questions about the nitty gritty of topics generation, curation, pages, hashtags, or topic cards? I'm watching the chat, so feel free to plug those in if you do have questions. Okay. So common scenarios from the real world are a shared vocabulary. Where do you have topics? Okay, so if you do opt to utilize topics or want to use topics, you would ask your IT organization or your management. There's typically a 30 or maybe a 60-day free trial. It does require additional licensing. It's $9 per user per month. And that can be reduced over time once you have your topics built. because you may not need as many people curating or administrating the topics. But when that's created, it creates its own little SharePoint site. So if that's the topic center is what that's called. And if you want people to be able to access that, it is security trimmed, but that could be something perhaps that you list on your intranet, your homepage. Visit our Viva Topic Center to learn about our different topics throughout the company. It could be a reference link that you include in your SharePoint site navigation, or maybe your footers. And you could put that link into the topic center itself, into any place that people that you want people to be able to discover that within your SharePoint or Teams environment. One of the things I think is very valuable for a topic center in knowledge management is the shared vocabulary. So, you are all knowledge subject matter experts in information governance and records management and policy. And we know that's an acronym soup. There are lots of acronyms that can be just absolutely meaningless to somebody who's new to the industry, or new to the concept, or maybe new to that department or function. So being able to build that shared vocabulary, not just acronyms, but terms that are common, information that is commonly used within your organization. That's part of, those can be your topics. That's part of your topic discovery and publishing. Maximizing your employee time. Now, there have been some studies. I think there was a study that was just published last week that I haven't reviewed yet, of some Microsoft business cases where companies have opted in to track some metric specifics around perhaps time productivity savings, for example. There are some metrics about that are generalized. I don't have those, but that's something that your topics administrator can manage in your SharePoint admin center. It creates metrics like your most frequent, topics card engagement people, or your topics page visitors, and where people navigate after visiting a topic. Maybe they go back to their normal line of work, then they've just learned something in the flow of work, or maybe they dive deeper into that topic. So there are some metrics that are automatically captured administratively, but remember that 7 weeks of estimated 7 weeks of lost value looking for things. This is where that comes into play to help maximize productivity and reduce some of that lost time. And then expediting onboarding. I think we had talked about, a corporate onboarding that would be everybody, is somebody being hired within the company going through, for example, a corporate HR type onboarding, but then that smaller onboarding that happens day to day as they're learning the work and the processes within the new department that they're joining. This will help them continue upon that new employee learning and onboarding. Okay, well, that is our next to last slide. I see we're right up on time, so I'll just move into the last one here. Thank you again, ARMA Metro New York City and Long Island chapter, for having me this year. It's always a pleasure. I'm also very appreciative of all the sponsors that are making this event happen. My sponsor for this session is Ovitas. Thank you very much. And for anybody who would like to provide feedback on this particular presentation, please use your cell phone and scan the QR code, and you'll be taken to a totally anonymous survey.
Yeah, so you're seeing the chat. I second everyone. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was very insightful. I'd certainly learned a lot about knowledge management in general, which I think for people who are new to the industry is a little bit murky. So thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, of course, very informative. overall, thank you so much for your time. And we have 5 minutes. You guys can hop over to the next session, or if you have any last minute questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But otherwise, thank you so much, Christy. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'll stay tuned into this channel for a few more minutes and to be able to live answer any questions that might arise. And thanks for your comments. It's hard to see if something is resonating with people on a virtual meeting because you can't see heads nodding or the furrowed brow. So comments is typically how that happens, and thanks for keeping me active and tuned into those.
Yeah, of course. All right, so I am going to. It looks like there aren't any questions, Christy.
Okay.
So I'm gonna end the stream.
Okay.
And and welcome everyone again to join the following session that will start in a few minutes. Thanks again.
I would just say that, in your Sozio app, you do have the opportunity to pose questions after the fact. If you visit this particular topic again, you can plug questions into the Sozio app, and I'll be monitoring there too. Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, good call. But yes, thank you everyone for attending. Hope we enjoyed it. Thanks, Christy, again. And you can keep, like she said, you should be able to keep adding questions if something comes up later in the day. But yeah, thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.